I never thought I'd be here writing this. I always imagined my life as a series of predictable chapters, happy ones filled with laughter and love. My name is Mark, and I've been married to Lisa for 7 years. We had what I thought was a solid relationship. Sure, there were the usual bumps, disagreements about chores, occasional financial stresses, but nothing that felt insurmountable. We were both in our 30s, living in a suburban neighborhood in Ohio, our lives seemingly crafted from the standard American dream. But then something changed. It started small, like a loose thread you ignore until you realize the whole fabric is unraveling. Lisa became increasingly distant. There were late nights at work. She was a marketing manager at a tech startup, and I supported her ambition. I'd tell myself she was just dedicated, but my gut was gnawing at me. She'd come home late, smelling of unfamiliar perfume, her excuses always vague. I had to work late, she'd say, brushing off my concerns with a wave of her hand. You know how it is. The first real sign I noticed was when she stopped wanting to spend our weekends together. Lisa loved our Sunday brunches, but suddenly she'd rather go out with friends. Just a girl's thing, she'd say, tossing her hair back in that way that used to charm me. I'd nod along, but inside I felt a creeping sense of dread. My friends noticed too. She seems different, they'd say, exchanging glances that made my stomach knot. They ask if I was okay, and I'd laugh it off, assuring them everything was fine. But was it? The tipping point came one Wednesday evening when I returned home a bit early. I wanted to surprise her, maybe cook her favorite pasta. The house was unusually quiet. I noticed her car was in the driveway, but when I called out, there was no response. I peeked into the living room, expecting to see her sprawled on the couch with a book. Instead, I found her laptop open on the coffee table, the screen illuminated with a chat window. I didn't mean to pry, but my curiosity got the better of me. The chat was with a man named Jake. They were flirting back and forth, talking about meeting up, sharing intimate details that made my skin crawl. I was frozen for a moment, the world around me fading as I read their conversation. Words like, "I can't wait to feel you," and "you make me feel alive" struck me like a punch to the gut. I felt sick, betrayed, and utterly lost. Was this what my life had turned into? A lie built on trust that I didn't even know was wavering. I wanted to scream, to confront her right then and there, but I held back. Instead, I quietly closed the laptop and went to the kitchen, trying to mask my racing heart with the mundane task of boiling water. The pasta could wait. All I could think about was how I was going to confront Lisa. What would I say? Would I even be able to get the words out? When she finally walked in, her face lit up with a smile that felt like a slap in the face. I'll never forget that moment. She walked into the kitchen, and I could see her excitement fade as she noticed my expression. "Mark, what's wrong?" she asked, her voice dripping with feigned concern. I wanted to shake her, to demand the truth. Instead, I asked about her day. She quickly recounted her meetings, avoiding any mention of where she'd been the night before. I knew I had to bide my time, to gather my thoughts before I unleashed the storm. I felt like a detective unraveling a mystery, but this wasn't a game. This was my life, and the stakes couldn't be higher. That night, as I lay beside her, I stared at the ceiling, feeling the weight of betrayal crushing me. I thought about all the moments we'd shared, how I'd poured my soul into our marriage. And here she was, lying right next to me, harboring a secret that could tear us apart. Just a few nights ago, we'd been laughing over dinner, and now I felt like I was living in a nightmare. I knew confrontation was inevitable. I wasn't going to let this slide. It was time to face the truth, no matter how painful it would be. The next day would change everything. I resolved to confront her and demand answers. There was no more time for denial or blind trust. I needed to know why she was throwing away everything we had built together, and I was ready for whatever truths would come crashing down on me. The morning after that fateful night was a cacophony of emotions. I woke up with a pit in my stomach, feeling as if I had swallowed a lead weight. The sunlight spilled into our bedroom, illuminating the space that had once felt like a sanctuary. Now it felt more like a cage, trapping me with all the memories of what we once had. Lisa was still asleep next to me, and I couldn't help but watch her for a moment, wondering how someone so beautiful could be capable of such betrayal. I got up early and made coffee, something I usually enjoyed doing for her. But this time, every step felt heavy, like I was walking through mud. The steam from the coffee maker curled into the air, a reminder of the warmth that had once filled our home. As I poured the coffee into 2 mugs, I rehearsed what I was going to say in my head. We need to talk. Simple, yet profound. I hoped that would be enough to trigger the truth. Lisa eventually shuffled into the kitchen, her hair tousled and her eyes still hazy with sleep. "Hey, babe," she said, flashing a sleepy smile. She looked so innocent, and yet I felt like I was standing on the precipice of a cliff, ready to dive into chaos. I handed her a mug and she took a sip, her eyes lighting up at the familiar taste. "Thanks, you're the best," she said, her voice sweet and melodic. I wanted to savor this moment, but I couldn't. There was a storm brewing beneath the surface. "Lisa, we need to talk," I said, cutting through the morning air like a knife. Her smile faltered and I could see a flicker of concern cross her face. "About last night." She placed her mug down, her demeanor shifting from relaxed to tense in an instant. "What do you mean?" she asked, her eyes darting away from mine. That was the first sign I noticed, avoidance. I had seen it before, but this time it felt like a warning bell ringing. "I saw your chat with Jake," I said, my voice steady but filled with an undercurrent of anger. I needed to remain calm, but I could feel my heart pounding in my chest. "I know what's going on." For a moment, it was as if the world had stopped. Lisa's expression transformed from shock to indignation. "What are you talking about?" she spat, her tone defensive. "You're being ridiculous, Mark." "Ridiculous? You think I'm being ridiculous?" I practically shouted. "I read the messages, Lisa. I know you've been seeing him. You're cheating on me." The words hung in the air like a thick fog, suffocating us both. Her face shifted from anger to disbelief. "You're making this up. You can't just accuse me of something like that without proof." She yelled, her voice rising with each syllable. It was as if she was trying to convince herself more than me. "Proof?" I echoed, incredulity washing over me. "I have the evidence right here. You've been lying to me, Lisa. How long has this been going on?" "Not long," she snapped, crossing her arms defensively. Her demeanor was like a wild animal caught in a trap, lashing out in desperation. "I can explain. I was just flirting. It didn't mean anything. You've been so distant lately. I needed some excitement." At that moment, my heart shattered. "Excitement?" I repeated, my voice trembling with hurt. "You needed excitement, so you went and found it in someone else's arms. What about us, Lisa? What about the vows we took?" Her expression softened for a brief moment, perhaps guilt flickered behind her eyes, but she quickly masked it with defiance. "You don't understand. You've been working late, too. We've both been busy. I just wanted to feel something again." "Feel something?" I shot back. "You think I don't care about our marriage? I've been trying to build a life with you. This isn't just about you, it's about us." The confrontation escalated and we exchanged accusations like a pair of boxers in a ring, each hit landing harder than the last. Lisa was clever with her words, twisting my statements against me, trying to paint me as the villain. "You're always so serious, Mark. You're making this a bigger deal than it is," she argued, her voice rising in pitch. "Can't you see? It's just a fling. It doesn't mean anything to me." But those words felt like daggers. "A fling?" I asked, disbelief coloring my tone. "You think I'm just going to sit back and let you dismiss the destruction you've caused? This is not just a fling. This is a betrayal." As the confrontation unfolded, I felt a mix of anger, sadness, and disbelief swirling inside me. I had never imagined we would come to this point, fighting over infidelity in our own home. I had always viewed my relationship with Lisa as a partnership, built on trust and love, and now it felt like a war zone. With each word, the emotional walls I had built began to crumble. I wanted to scream, to cry, to express all the hurt that was clawing its way out, but I didn't. Instead, I stood there, heart pounding, grappling with the reality of losing not just my wife, but the life we had built together. I didn't know what would come next, but one thing was clear: I couldn't let this slide. I had a decision to make. Would I fight for our marriage, or would I walk away? As I looked into her eyes, I could see the person I once loved, but also the stranger she had become. I felt a tempest brewing inside me as I braced for what was to come. The confrontation felt like an eternity, but in reality it was only a few minutes. Yet in those moments my mind raced with possible outcomes. I never envisioned our relationship spiraling into this chaos. As I looked into Lisa's eyes, I saw both anger and a flicker of fear. I was reminded that while she had hurt me deeply, she was still my wife, the person I had shared my life with. But now, standing there in our kitchen, I could feel the heavy weight of betrayal pressing down on my chest. I had to make a choice, and the stakes couldn't be higher. Would I confront the reality of her infidelity and try to salvage our marriage, or was it time to cut my losses and walk away? "Mark, please," Lisa pleaded, her voice softening as she stepped closer. "Let's just talk about this calmly. I didn't mean for it to get this far. It's just what, Lisa?" I interrupted, my voice rising again. "Just a bit of fun, just a distraction. You're not even sorry." The words hung in the air, heavy with accusation. I could see the cracks forming in her facade, the bravado she had put up was starting to crumble. "I'm sorry," she finally shouted, her voice cracking. "I just wanted to feel something different. You've been so absorbed in work and I felt neglected. It was stupid, I know that now, but I didn't think it would get serious." I took a step back, feeling the gravity of her words. "Neglected?" I asked, incredulous. "You think that justifies cheating? I've been working hard to provide for us, to build a future together. And this is how you repay me?" My chest tightened as I fought back tears. The anger surged within me, but so did the deep sense of loss. "You think I wanted to ignore you? I thought we were in this together. You're throwing it all away for a thrill." "I didn't throw it away," she shouted back, frustration spilling over. I wanted to feel alive again, Mark. It was a mistake, I swear. I love you, but I needed something more." Her words felt like a dagger, piercing through everything we had built together. "You needed something more?" I asked, shaking my head in disbelief. "You didn't think to talk to me about it? You didn't think to communicate? We could have worked through it together." For a moment, silence enveloped us. The anger began to simmer down, replaced with a different kind of pain, one that felt heavy and suffocating. I didn't want to fight anymore. I wanted answers. My heart ached, and all I could think about was the love I still had for her, tangled up in the betrayal. "I don't know if I can forgive you for this," I finally admitted, my voice barely above a whisper. "I don't know if I can trust you again." Lisa's eyes filled with tears, and suddenly she looked so vulnerable, like the woman I had fallen in love with years ago. "Mark, please, I never wanted to hurt you. I'm so sorry. I'll do whatever it takes to fix this. Just give me a chance." But I felt the walls closing in. "What does that even mean?" I asked, frustration bubbling up again. "How do I know this isn't just another lie? How do I know you won't go running back to him the moment things get tough again?" She opened her mouth to respond, but nothing came out. The reality of her actions hung heavily between us. I wanted to believe her, wanted to believe it was just a fleeting moment of weakness, but the fear and doubt clawed at me. My heart was caught in a tug-of-war. On one side, the love I still felt for her, and on the other, the sheer betrayal that threatened to tear us apart. "I don't know how to move forward," I admitted, feeling lost. "I can't just pretend this didn't happen. It's not that easy." Lisa stepped closer again, reaching out to touch my arm. "I know it's not easy. I'll prove it to you. I'll end things with him, I promise. Just give me a chance to show you I can change." I pulled away from her touch. "And what if I can't come to terms with it? What if I can't look at you the same way again? What if I can't forget?" Her eyes shimmered with tears, and for a moment it felt like we were back at the beginning of our relationship, standing on the precipice of something beautiful. But now everything had changed. The weight of betrayal felt like a boulder on my chest. "I need time to think," I finally said, the words tasting bitter on my tongue. "I need to figure out what I want." Lisa's face fell, and I could see the panic in her eyes. "Mark, please don't say that. We can get through this. I love you." But the words felt hollow in the wake of her actions. "Love isn't enough when trust is gone," I replied, turning away from her, feeling the distance between us grow unbearably wide. As I walked away, I felt lost and confused. I had spent so much time building my life around Lisa, and now I was faced with the shattering reality of what she had done. I needed space to process everything, to let the whirlwind of emotion settle. The rest of the day was a blur. I went to work, but my mind was consumed by thoughts of Lisa and what had happened. I felt like a spectator in my own life, watching everything unravel while I was powerless to stop it. I was blindsided, and I didn't know how to pick up the pieces. That evening, I sat alone in our Living room, the weight of my decision looming over me. I had to figure out the next steps, whether to fight for my marriage or walk away for good. I needed clarity, and I hoped that in the silence I could find the answers I was desperately seeking. But that night, surrounded by memories of happier times, I couldn't shake the feeling that our story had changed irrevocably. One way or another, I knew I had to confront the truth of our relationship and what it meant for the future. The days that followed felt like a fog, each one blending into the next. I tried to get back to my routine, but every task felt monumental. Work was a distraction, but even there I found it hard to focus. My colleagues noticed my distracted demeanor, and I received concerned glances and probing questions. I brushed them off, pretending everything was fine, but inside I was a whirlwind of emotions: hurt, anger, and confusion. Lisa and I had agreed to give each other some space after that explosive confrontation, but that didn't make it any easier. Each time I walked through the front door, I was hit with a wave of memories that felt both comforting and suffocating. The laughter we once shared echoed in the corners of our home, taunting me. I'd see the pictures of our vacations, us smiling on sunny beaches, wrapped in each other's arms, only to be reminded of the dark shadow now looming over our relationship. One evening, as I sat on the couch staring blankly at the television, I received a text from Lisa. "Can we talk?" It read. I stared at my phone for what felt like an eternity before deciding to reply. "When?" She responded quickly, suggesting we meet at a local coffee shop the next morning. My stomach knotted at the thought of seeing her again. Would this be another confrontation, or would it be an attempt at reconciliation? I didn't know what to expect, but I knew I had to face her eventually. I had so many questions, and I needed to hear her side of the story, if there was any truth left in her words. The next morning, I arrived at the coffee shop early, nursing a cup of black coffee as I watched people go about their lives. I felt like an outsider, detached from the world around me. When Lisa arrived, she looked different, more composed, but the shadows under her eyes told me she hadn't been sleeping well. We exchanged awkward small talk, both of us acutely aware of the elephant in the room. "Thanks for meeting me," she said, her voice softer than I remembered. "I really want to clear the air." I nodded, unsure how to begin. "I'm listening," I finally said, forcing the words out. "I've been doing a lot of thinking," she started, her hands fidgeting with the cup in front of her. I realized how stupid I was to get involved with Jake. It was a moment of weakness, and I let it get out of control. I should have talked to you about how I was feeling instead of seeking validation elsewhere. "Validation," I repeated, feeling the bitterness rise within me. "That's what this was for you, a boost to your ego." "No, it wasn't just that," she insisted, her voice rising slightly. "It was about feeling alive again. I missed the connection we had, everything felt so routine. I thought I could find excitement elsewhere, but I was wrong. I know that now." I could see sincerity in her eyes, but I struggled with whether it was enough. "Do you really think you can just erase what happened?" I asked, feeling the anger bubble back to the surface. "How do I know you won't do it again?" "I can't change the past, but I want to change the future," Lisa replied, her voice trembling. "I'm willing to do the work. I love you, Mark. I've always loved you. I know I've hurt you, and I don't expect you to forgive me right away, but I want to try. I'll go to counseling. I'll do whatever it takes to show you I mean it." Counseling. The word hung in the air like a lifeline. Part of me wanted to grasp onto it, to believe that we could mend the broken pieces of our marriage, but another part of me felt resistance. "What if I can't get past this?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. "What if I can't trust you again?" Lisa leaned in, her expression earnest. "I understand why you'd feel that way. I can't expect you to just get over it. But I want to prove to you that I'm committed to making things right. I'll be an open book. No secrets, no lies." I took a deep breath, feeling the tension in my chest. "I need to see that," I finally said, the words tasting bittersweet. "But I'm not sure how this will work. I need to process everything. This isn't just something I can forget." "Take all the time you need," she replied, her voice steady. "I'll be here waiting. I just want a chance to show you that I can be the partner you deserve." The conversation shifted from anger to a tentative understanding, but I still felt a knot in my stomach. There was a part of me that wanted to believe her, to give us another shot. But I also knew that love alone couldn't fix the pain she had caused. Trust was the foundation of any relationship, and hers had crumbled under the weight of betrayal. As we left the coffee shop, I felt conflicted. I wanted to believe that Lisa could change, that we could work through this. But I was also acutely aware of the damage done, the cracks in the foundation of our marriage that couldn't easily be repaired. That night, I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, listening to the silence that enveloped the house. I couldn't shake the feeling that we were standing at a crossroads. Deep down, I knew that I would have to make a choice soon, either to fight for our marriage or to let go and move on. But for now, I had a decision to make, one that would determine the future of our relationship. Would I take the leap of faith and trust her again, or was it time to walk away and reclaim my life? The uncertainty lingered, and I was left grappling with my emotions, searching for clarity in a situation that felt so profoundly unclear. After our conversation at the coffee shop, I felt like I was standing on a precipice, peering into the abyss. I turned the thoughts over and over in my mind. Should I give Lisa another chance? Could I truly forgive her? I had to process the whirlwind of emotions swirling inside me, betrayal mixed with the faint hope that maybe, just maybe, we could find our way back to each other. The next few days were a test of patience. I kept my distance, allowing myself time to breathe and reflect. Lisa respected my need for space, though the occasional text would pop up on my phone, reminding me that she was still there, still willing to fight for us. "I love you," they would say. "I miss you." Each message was a bittersweet reminder of what we once had. I decided to speak with a friend about my situation, someone who had been through a similar experience. Mark was a good buddy from college who had faced infidelity in his own marriage. I hoped he could provide some perspective. We met for drinks one night, and as we settled into our booth, I plunged right in. "Man, I'm in a mess," I started, running my fingers through my hair. "Lisa cheated on me. I found out a week ago, and I'm just drowning in decisions." Mark listened intently, nodding as I detailed everything: the discovery, the confrontation, the aftermath. "I don't know if I can ever trust her again," I admitted, swallowing the lump in my throat. "But she wants to work on things. She even suggested counseling." "Look, I get it," Mark said, leaning back in his seat. "When my ex cheated on me, I felt like my world was crumbling, but you have to do what's best for you. Trust takes time to rebuild. It's not easy and it's not guaranteed." "Yeah, but what if I still love her?" I replied, feeling the conflict within me bubble to the surface. "What if I want to try to make it work?" "Then you have to be honest with yourself," he said, his tone measured. "Ask yourself, can you really forgive her? Are you willing to put in the effort? Because if you decide to stay, you'll both have to do the work. If not, it might be time to cut your losses." His words echoed in my mind long after we parted ways. It was a heavy choice, and I felt the weight of it pressing down on me. The thought of walking away from the woman I had shared so much with was terrifying, but the thought of being trapped in a cycle of resentment was equally daunting. The following weekend, Lisa suggested we attend a couples counseling session together. It was a decision I had been contemplating, and I felt that it could be a step toward clarity. So, with a mix of apprehension and hope, I agreed. When the day arrived, I felt a flutter of nerves. We arrived at the counselor's office, a cozy space filled with warm colors and comfortable furniture. Lisa seemed nervous too, fidgeting with her hands as we waited for the therapist to arrive. The moment felt surreal. I couldn't believe we had come to this point. Counselor, a woman named Dr. Williams, entered with a warm smile and introduced herself. "Welcome. I'm glad you both are here. It takes courage to seek help, especially after a breach of trust. Let's start by discussing what brought you here." As we talked, I felt the weight of our issues laid bare before us. Lisa recounted her feelings of neglect, and I shared my hurt and disbelief over her betrayal. Dr. Williams guided us, helping us navigate the conversation with care and compassion. "Lisa, it's important for Mark to understand what led you to seek connection outside your marriage," Dr. Williams said gently. "Can you articulate that?" "I think I felt lost," Lisa admitted, her voice shaking. "I didn't know how to talk to Mark about my feelings. I thought I could find a quick thrill, but I realize now that it was wrong. I never wanted to hurt him." Dr. Williams nodded, encouraging her. "And Mark, how does that make you feel?" It's hard to hear her say that, I replied, my voice thick with emotion. I worked so hard to build a life with her, and to find out she was looking elsewhere, it's beyond painful. I just feel like I can't trust that she won't do it again. Dr. Williams guided us through our feelings, helping us both articulate our emotions and fears. As we spoke, I could see the vulnerability in Lisa's eyes, and I felt a glimmer of what we had lost. The session opened doors for honest communication, something we had been missing for far too long. After the session, as we walked to the car, I felt a mix of hope and uncertainty. "I think we made some progress," Lisa said softly, glancing at me. "I know it's going to take time, but I'm willing to do what it takes." "I am too," I replied cautiously, "but I need to see consistent effort from you. I can't rebuild trust overnight." "I can do that," she said, her eyes earnest. "I'll show you I'm committed to making this work. I love you, Mark." As I looked into her eyes, I felt a flicker of the connection we had lost. I wasn't sure if it was enough yet, but I knew that taking this step together sparked a tiny ember of hope within me. In the coming weeks, we continued with our sessions, peeling back layers of hurt and communicating more openly than we ever had before. It was exhausting, but I could see Lisa was genuinely trying to change. She was attentive, ready to listen, and willing to make the necessary sacrifices. Yet the doubts still lingered. I often found myself questioning whether I could truly forgive her, whether our marriage could survive the wounds inflicted by deceit. Would I be able to let go of the past and build a new foundation for our future? As I contemplated these questions, I realized I had to be honest with myself. I had to weigh the love I still felt against the pain of betrayal. The decision wasn't just about us anymore. It was about my own healing and what I wanted for my future. But even as I grappled with my feelings, I couldn't shake the sense that we were on the cusp of something transformative. We were facing the shadows of our past, and though the road ahead was tangled, I knew that I had to navigate it carefully. With each passing day, I hoped to find the answers I sought, answers that would ultimately determine the fate of our relationship. As the weeks rolled into months, Lisa and I continued our journey through counseling. Each session felt like peeling back layers of an onion, raw moments that brought tears, but also healing conversations that reminded me of the love we once shared. We talked about our dreams, our fears, and the unspoken frustrations that had festered beneath the surface. It was exhausting but necessary work, and for the first time, I felt like we were genuinely addressing the core issues in our marriage. One evening, after a particularly intense session, we decided to take a walk in the park, the sun setting behind us in a blaze of orange and pink. It was a beautiful sight, and I felt a glimmer of hope as we strolled side by side, our fingers lightly brushing against each other. "I still can't believe how far we've come," Lisa said, breaking the silence. "It feels good to finally talk about things openly." "I agree," I replied, my voice laced with cautious optimism. "But I still have a long way to go before I can fully trust you again." "I understand that," she said, her gaze earnest. "I want to earn your trust back, Mark. I don't want to lose you again. I've learned so much about myself through this process." There was a sincerity in her voice that made my heart ache. I could see the woman I fell in love with shining through the cracks of our broken relationship. "I appreciate that, but it's going to take time. I need to see consistent effort from you. I can't just forget what happened." "Of course," she said, nodding. "I want you to feel safe with me again. I'll do whatever it takes." As we walked, I reflected on the progress we had made. I still felt the weight of the betrayal, but with each session, I began to see a path forward. I also started to understand that healing was not a linear process. There would be good days and bad days, moments of clarity and moments of doubt. But I was willing to navigate this complicated terrain if it meant finding a way back to each other. One night, after a particularly difficult session where we had confronted the raw emotions surrounding her betrayal, I decided to lay everything out. "Lisa," I began, taking a deep breath, "I think we need to set some boundaries. It's not just about rebuilding trust, it's about ensuring we're both on the same page." "Absolutely," she replied, her eyes wide with understanding. "What do you have in mind?" "I think it might be helpful for us to check in with each other regularly, maybe once a week, about how we're doing. No judgment, just honesty. I want to know how you're feeling, and I want you to know how I'm feeling." "I love that idea," she said, a smile creeping onto her face. "It's a way for us to stay connected and keeps communication open." As I watched her, I felt a flicker of warmth spreading in my chest. Maybe we could do this. Maybe we could build something new out of the ashes of our old relationship. The following weeks were peppered with both progress and setbacks, but we were committed to the process. Lisa began to incorporate small but meaningful gestures into our daily lives, sending me thoughtful texts during the day, surprising me with my favorite snacks, and making time for intimate conversations. I started to feel that cautious optimism rise within me. Then came the night when I finally felt ready to take a leap of faith. We were sitting on our couch, the ambience cozy with the soft glow of lamps illuminating our surroundings. I turned to her, finally ready to express what had been building inside me. "Lisa, I've been thinking a lot about us and everything we've been through," I began, my voice steady. "I want to move forward and I want to try to rebuild our marriage. But I need to be honest, I'm still scared of getting hurt again." "I get that," she said, her eyes reflecting my own. "Vulnerability. I'm scared too, but I promise I won't let you down again. I've learned so much about myself through this process." "Then let's keep working on it together," I replied, the weight of my decision lifting just a little. "Let's make it a priority to keep talking, to be vulnerable with each other. We can't just go back to how things used to be, we have to forge a new path." "I'm all in," Lisa said, her voice unwavering. "I'm ready to fight for us." In that moment, I felt lighter, like a burden had been lifted. I knew we had a long road ahead, but I could see the flicker of hope transforming into something brighter. It wouldn't be easy, but we were willing to put in the work. As the weeks turned into months, we continued to embrace the journey, tackling the challenges together. I learned to communicate my feelings more openly, and Lisa became more receptive to my needs. We began to cultivate a renewed sense of intimacy, both emotionally and physically. The laughter returned to our home, and slowly but surely, we were rebuilding the trust that had been shattered. I still had moments of doubt, but now I had tools to address them. I knew that healing would take time, and I was learning to be patient with myself and with Lisa. Through this experience, I realized that love could indeed prevail, but it required effort, commitment, and transparency from both sides. In reflection, this journey taught me invaluable lessons about vulnerability, the importance of communication, and the power of forgiveness. I came to understand that, while betrayal can cut deep, it's possible to emerge stronger from the ashes if both partners are willing to fight for each other. As I sat on that couch one evening, looking at Lisa with a mixture of love and gratitude, I felt a sense of peace wash over me. We were not the same couple we had once been, but perhaps that was a good thing. We were evolving, learning from our mistakes, and building a new foundation. And in that moment, with her smiling back at me, I realized that love, when nurtured and fought for, could indeed thrive even in the face of adversity.